This next ship is one of my favorites, the Adder. I think this ship is often overlooked, overshadowed in people's minds by the Cobra, and to be honest, I didn't care for it at first glance, but I've come to appreciate this ship, and I think that may be common among those who like the Adder. It seems to be sort of an acquired taste. First things first, appearances. It certainly isn't the most beautiful ship. It almost looks goofy. It sort of looks like a dinky space shuttle. But I gave it a chance later down the line, after I'd flown many other ships, and even just from the outside, there were things I noticed that I liked about it, such as the fins up top and the arrangement of the engines. It kind of reminds me of the Fer-de-Lance. And then things that I didn't like at first glance, like the space shuttle-esque front end, I found later to be kind of an endearing part of the ship. The paint job on the ship is also not exciting. The stock color just kind of makes it feel more dinky to me, and unfortunately there aren't a lot of good options for this ship in that regard. The wingtips also fold up when you extend the landing gear, which is kind of neat, and there aren't a lot of ships that have those moving parts like that on the wings or whatever. If I had to sum up its outward looks, I would have to say that it looks like an old bus to me, and that brings us to the cockpit conversation. And oh my god, the Adder's cockpit has to be the worst in the game. First off, there's a ton of stuff just kind of in your way. You can barely see with all the crossbars compared to other ships. And it's not helped by the viewport just being kind of small in general. And it's not immediately apparent, but it seems as though you sit further back in this ship, like the console is further from you, as is the UI. In most other ways, though, I think this can be compared to the Hauler, which makes sense. Both ships are Zorgon-Peterson. The materials, while similar, I don't think they're the same. The Adder seems a little bit more high-end, and it feels less cheap to me, and the cockpit itself is larger. So far, the general feel of this ship is that it's kind of old, but even with the god-awful cockpit, kind of grows on you. The terrible view becomes endearing somehow, at least to me. While we're here in the cockpit, there is something notable about this ship in game terms. If we look to the left, without the thing in the way, you can see a second chair. This is the cheapest game, and likely the first that you would buy, or be able to buy, that has multi-crew capability. Now, the next thing about this ship, and one of my favorite parts of it, is the engine sounds. It's very reminiscent of the Hauler, but the super weird parts are toned down and replaced with things that are, to me, cooler. This ship can sound really interesting as you put it through its paces. It's very dynamic and unique. Thinking of what I said earlier, how it sort of looks like an old bus, well, if a ship in Elite could sound like one, I think this might be as close as it gets. There are some really cool parts of the sounds that I would like to kind of display. When you slow down, you get that sound, which is pretty interesting to me. I like it a lot. And if you are going full speed, and you throttle down and hit the landing gear, it goes quiet.
Landing gear deployed.
And you just get a little hint of something at the end, which is kind of cool.
Landing gear retracted.
And the final thing is just the boost. I like the way that it kind of winds up. So that'll bring us to the numbers part of the discussion. To buy this ship, you'll need about 87,810 credits. It comes with a speed of 220 meters per second and a boost of 321 meters per second. The maneuverability score is 4 out of 10. It has a jump range of approximately 8.5 light years, and it comes with 78 megajoules of shields and 162 armor. To A-rate this ship, it'll cost about 2 million credits. Your speed will jump up to 250 meters per second, and the boost is 365 meters per second. The jump range jumps up to about 23.5 light years, And with the Class 3 A-rated shields, it has 102 megajoules of shields. So for hard points, you have a Class 2 and 2 Class 1s. For utility mounts, you have 2 of them. For the core internal, you have a 3 power plant, 3 thrusters, 3 frameshift drive, 1 life support, 2 power distributor, 3 sensors, 3 fuel tank, and no military compartments. For the optional internal, you have 2 3s, 2 2s, and a 1. In general, I think this ship is kind of in the middle for everything, at a point in the game where ships are beginning to really differentiate themselves. But that's kind of the point of this ship. It's a good multi-purpose ship. For the price, I think it's downright great. It's decent for combat early, it can carry an okay amount of cargo, it has enough internals for some low-scale piracy, it's a good starting point for rare good trading if you learn about that kind of thing. The only thing I can't recommend in this ship is mining, but in my opinion there aren't many ships that are really good for mining until later on. I highly recommend giving this ship a chance, if even just to tool around it. The Adder has a lot of character. The only thing with this ship is I wish it got more love in the paint job department. Other than that, I don't think there's a single thing I dislike about this ship, and that includes the awful cockpit. Anyway, thanks for watching, and I'll see you around.